All right, everyone. What is up? We are here to talk to you on our first ever podcast. We're here to talk to you about, life advice, things you might find useful, and we hope we make your life a little bit easier. We kind of know what we're talking about. We're not dummies, but yeah, that right there is Steven.
Right next to me, we got Jun, aka Nestor.
And our lovely host today is Crystal.
Today, we are going to talk about motivation. And here we go. We are now on the line. The first segment of today's podcast, we're going to talk about ways to motivate ourselves, from our personal experience. Everybody has a different way to motivate ourselves. We're just going to talk about some things that help us, and hopefully you guys can pick one of those that might help you. I guess I'll start. My first thing that I like to do, I don't think a lot of people like to do this, but it's making a checklist. Like every day I sit down in the morning, I got my coffee, and I pull out my notebook. And, my notebook usually has some type of motivating quote on there too. Like, get work done. You're the best. Sunshine state of mind. Yep. So you got to get a motivating notebook. And then I open it up and I just write down all the things that I need to do. And then if that means carrying over stuff that I didn't complete yesterday, just adding it to that list. I don't know. Something about like being able to check off little things you do every day. Like, to me, you just have to like write down any little thing that you accomplish, and then just the satisfaction of just checking it off. Like, drink water. I am doing okay, guys. I got one thing checked. So I don't know. What do you guys do checklists ever? I feel like I do it every day.
I was gonna ask, how like minute do you go into what you write on that list? Is it mainly like big things, like finish that project, or is it like you just said drink water? Is that a typical thing that you'd put in there?
No, I mean, that's like minuscule, but I do like to keep it minuscule because the more you check off, the more like productive you feel, and then you feel more motivated. Like, oh, that was easy. I can do the next thing on my list. So like if I'm trying to this is a really bad example, but I need to do all the laundry today. Like, I would put 1, organize laundry by load. That's one task. 2, wash and dry. One thing on the list. 3, fold laundry. One thing on the list. 4,
it's pretty detailed.
Put it away. So then every part of the day, laundry takes a whole day. You want to just have finished laundry and you just check one thing off. You want to have like the satisfaction of like, all right, guys, I freaking organized it to the colors that it needs to be. And then you feel a little bit accomplished. And then you check off that you put stuff in the washer and you dried it. Then you check off that you folded it, little steps so that you give yourself a taste of like accomplishment to push you forward throughout the rest of the day.
Is your list like just things to do, or are they time stamped? Do
Things
this
to
by
do.
this. Just
Things to do.
whenever.
Things to do whenever. I think like I'll like write down all the things that I need to do. This is a waste of paper. And then I rewrite the list on a new page in the prioritization that I want it to be at.
Have you ever thought about a dry erase board? Because that's how I do also write things down, like things to do, a goal list kind of. But I use a whiteboard. So I like to think that does do a little better for the environment as far as I just erase, and then I don't have to use a whole slip of paper.
I don't know. I mean, I love the environment, man. I'm recycling now, but I feel like a lot of people out there are going to agree with this. All right. Something about a nice pen, writing on that nice fresh paper. There's people out there like me that like the smell of paper, smell of books. I don't know. Something about it is just so satisfying. I could be crazy. I don't know. All right. Well, write a list. I really think you should try it. Don't knock it till you try it. If that's on a dry erase board, go for it. If that's just on your cell phone, our notes have a really good list making capability on your laptop. I know people make like cool sticky notes, and you could like change the background, colors and font so you can make it look all aesthetic. Whatever works for you, I think it's going to work for anybody. It really feels satisfying to just mark off that you breathed, you know.
Yeah. I think I use a similar practice to try to keep myself motivated. I like to think if I have a problem or anything that kind of stresses me out, one way I try to stay driven and stay motivated is to break down the problem into many different steps, which kind of leads into my other form of motivating myself, which is managing my priorities. So big picture, I take this problem and then break it down to steps, the things that are a little more chewable, and then manage my priorities that run out so that I can at least get some things done on my way to getting that bigger problem finished.
Yeah, I feel like whenever I'm stressed out, and everyone does, Steven will always be like, bro, one step at a time. Finish one thing, and then you just get rolling, get things rolling. Because if you're just starting from nothing, laying on the couch, and you haven't done anything for the rest of the day, you feel like, nah, I ain't gonna start. But once you finish one thing, I don't know, something about your mind gets triggered. Like, okay, finish one thing.
Yeah.
One
You hit a
step at a time.
milestone, get a sense of accomplishment, and get the ball rolling.
I think there's also like something to the idea of writing it down. And so like it becomes more like you have to do it because you wrote it down. Because then there's like the reciprocal of just not just being able to cross. So like you cross things out, but then you can see at the end of the day, I didn't cross that out. There's like it kind of like a mental thing, just writing something down so it becomes real, tangible.
Sometimes if I don't accomplish it, I just rewrite the list, pretend like it was never on there, add it
Yeah, you say
tomorrow.
you like throw it to the next day.
Yeah, you can't expect to finish the whole thing.
There's always tomorrow.
For motivation for me, I like to kind of it's more of like a mental thing instead of like an actual thing that you can write down. It's more I try to focus on what like the progression of something versus I guess it kind of falls in line with writing something down and you do step by step by step, but it's like focusing on the gains, like and when you work out you call it your gains. It's the idea that you kind of look at the progression instead of the end thing. So like kind of when you write things down, you can knock off one thing, knock off one thing. It's just the state of mind of focusing. Like if I were to want to get something done, I try to look for like these tangible things that I can mark to see improvement as I go through it. That's really just like a mental kind of switch that I try to do for motivation. Because if I can see myself improve as time goes
Right.
on, or I can see myself finish certain things on the way to the final goal, those little gains really, they're like a booster, they're like a reward, so that you can finish up what you ultimately want to finish up.
So you're essentially monitoring your progression here and then focusing on the next step because you've gotten so far.
This is huge for me to keep myself motivated. Coming up with little rewards to reward myself for little things that I do. Like,
Example.
all right, say you're in school and you got to study or something. If you study for a good hour or like finish one chapter of what you need to do, say, okay, after I finish that, I can go get Starbucks. Just like, have a little bit of reward. Like, oh, I can't do this until I do that. Or like, all right, if I finish this task, like write a quarter of a paper, I can watch 20 minutes of TV to relax. Like, it's not extraneous things. Like, I'm not going to be like, I can buy a $10,000 car if I do this. It's just like little things to just, reward myself. Like
How do
something
you-
to look forward to.
All right. So how do you separate from when you have these impulses where, let's say, instead of reading a chapter and then getting Starbucks or finishing a paragraph and then watching TV, you, let's say, wake up and you're like, I'm going to watch TV. And then you watch TV for 20 minutes. And then come time to write that paragraph, and you're like, I think I'm going to get some Starbucks.
That's the problem. That's why you gotta have self-discipline. That's like a whole different thing than motivation to me. That's like you need to work on self-discipline. You gotta come up with your rewards and only reward yourself if you get stuff done. You know, you gotta get shit done before you get reward yourself, you know? But if I like cross half of my checklist, all right, I'm gonna order dinner tonight instead of cooking it. You can't just order dinner now and be like, oh, I'm gonna just order dinner now, even though I didn't do anything. That just like comes down to self-discipline, I think. Why is that happen often with you? Just
Yeah, it happens a lot with me.
rewarding
When I'm-
yourself for nothing.
It's not so much that, it's like I feel like I can get things done later, especially if my reward is like watch TV. It's not something that I feel like.
Well, you got to come up with rewards.
I guess
that
it's like a
you
reward that works for
find-
you, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like if playing video games is your reward, or like you can buy something on Amazon like for $20. I don't know, something
Yeah.
small. It's like what you find is rewarding for yourself. To me, getting to watch TV is rewarding. I have the discipline of, you know, I mean, I'm one of those people that works and watches TV in the background, but like I don't count that as like I'm watching TV. I'm still being productive. I just need that sound in the background. But for me to like just relax my mind for 20 minutes without having to work is like a reward.
I gotcha.
So number 2, rewards. Whether that's chocolate, whether that's playing basketball, whether that's a nap, you know, find a reward that works for you. Not everyone has money to go get Starbucks, but say you are going to reward yourself with something in your fridge. Keep it simple, but something that's actually worth it for you. What about you guys? You know, people are starting school. We're in September. We're starting a new leaf. People could be starting new jobs. What's your next motivation?
Yeah, so I kind of touched upon it the first point. Another way that I like to stay motivated is that I manage my priorities. So I've learned to pick up this skill after working in the hospital where it's just high stress all the time, every corner that you turn. I've learned to be able to manage which fires to put out first. I think this has a lot to do with tackling a big stressful problem. Being able to figure out what needs to get done first is definitely important, just to manage like the cascading effect it would have on the rest of your problems. By being able to tackle one of the biggest problems, one of the most important problems, is definitely key in staying motivated, because otherwise it'll just feel like a cascading effect, and then you feel like you're in the hole. So I like to break things down, number one, but then to also manage all those different steps that you need to do to just stay productive, keep moving forward. And it seems to work out pretty well for me.
Talk about like organize it in like priority.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that kind of relates to your first one, because you said that you like to think of the bigger picture, right?
Yeah.
So like this priority thing, it's like, what do the little tasks are like? How are they relating to the bigger picture, and do they get that bigger picture done? Is that how you're prioritizing your stuff? Or is it like which one takes the less time? Which one has a closer deadline? Stuff like that.
Yeah, it's more so like which has a closer deadline at the same time as what part of the process needs to happen first. And so, like at work, what I do is I prep patients for surgery. After I do that, I go into the operating room and help them get the room ready, to where then anesthesia can bring the patient in and then surgery can happen. So I'm not going to go into the room first, get the room ready, and then have the patient be sitting waiting for me to prepare them. If they're not prepared for surgery, then there's no point in getting the room done.
Yeah. Oh,
So what I'd like to do is get the patient ready first, then go into the room. So basically fall down the line of this whole process and make sure that everything is taken care of in order of when they need to be taken care of, which is managing my priorities.
So essentially just knowing what the process is from start to finish and just going from there.
Here's the kicker. How does prioritizing what needs to be done keep you motivated?
There isn't so much time to like sit back and think because there's so many things that are piling on top of each other. And so to just stay motivated, I use this priority system to make sure that I keep ahead of myself, and it's
Makes a big problem C way more manageable. Is that the
right.
idea?
Yeah. It makes the problem more manageable, and like what you were saying earlier, I can monitor my progression, and seeing that I'm not falling behind in the process. It makes me want to stay ahead, and so that's how I use it.
We'll go to my final motivational tool.
Go for
This
it.
one, I guess we could call it the Michael Jordan tool in the sense
Okay.
that I compete with everyone. You don't even have to know I'm competing with you for me to compete against you. And that's just the tool that I use to keep motivated because even something super simple where it's just like someone, you know, jogging next to me and I'm like, I'm gonna jog a little faster than you. And just things like that. So I'm just gonna compete with anyone. Like if someone's doing something, I'm gonna be better than you at doing whatever you just did. And that's just the way I find it easily motivating. You get that kind of reward at the end. It's like, oh, I actually am better than this guy, this thing. And so you just kind of compete it and you just use it to work, the Michael Jordan effect. You
Okay.
just compete for anything.
Literally. I was laughing because I always do that. I'm always comparing myself to everyone. I'm like, what are they doing? I'm better than you.
Yeah.
It is motivating. I like that. I like that, but I don't know. I want to see what Steven thinks about that because to me that's like I'm always comparing myself to others to compete with them, like even if they don't know it. But like you always tell me like don't compare yourself to others. Don't see like it doesn't matter what people are doing, just focus on yourself. It's kind of the opposite.
Yeah, that is kind of my perspective on it. But I also use that strategy at work where, I have coworkers where they aren't doing something as fast as they can be. But I definitely would like to be the person who everyone goes to because I can get things done most effectively, most efficiently. So I do, in a sense, compete with others, even if they don't know it, just because I want to be able to prove to myself that I am better than that person or better than what they would expect from me or from somebody else.
It doesn't even have to be like a direct like com- compete like competition like oh they did this better so now I gotta do that better. It could be like if you watch the Last Dance with Michael Jordan, like someone can walk up to me and just say like hey, but like in a tone I don't like, the game's afoot. I'm gonna beat that guy in whatever. I don't care what it is. I mean it sounds kind of toxic, but it's also just a way that you can use you know, competition in a way that keep you motivated. So say there's someone in your class in a lecture or whatever, and they're like answering all the questions, you can be like, okay, my game is going to be, I'm going to compete with this person. Let me answer more questions than that guy. That's how you can use, the Michael Jordan kind of
Yep.
effect to, keep yourself motivated, especially if it's a class that's boring.
I like that. I think I need to add that more into my daily stuff. It's kind of hard though when you're like working from home, you don't really see anybody or just kind of monitor through emails.
That kind of ties into his competition factor kind of ties into my last motivational tool, which is changing your perspective on things. Like how Jen was saying, he likes to think that, this is a competitive factor that he can improve upon himself, which is, very driven. So I think that, being able to change your perspective on things is huge. With these problems, with these demotivating stressors, it's easy to just fall into the stress and say, I can't do this or I'm going to do this later or whatever it is. If you were to at least change your perspective to say that, this is what I can gain from this issue, from getting these things done. Like Jen said, if, someone's running next to me, I'm going to try to run faster. being able to just switch gears and not so look at the negative things that, these problems come up with, it makes all the difference. Being able to change your perspective on an issue, I feel like, is one of the most motivating things, because you realize what you can take out of it versus just getting X done, getting Y done, getting Z done. You actually feel like you're
Yeah.
gaining something out of it.
But like, what if there's like nothing? You can't think of anything you can gain. I was thinking like stuff from work. It's like I ain't gaining nothing from this. This is like same stuff
That
I
like
do
one
all the
extra meeting
time.
that
I don't
inconveniences
work.
you.
Yeah. But I guess it's like bigger picture is I'm getting that paycheck at the end of the week. I just gotta push
Money
through.
motivation.
Move. I know where people don't like to motivate themselves by money. Actually, a lot of people do, right?
I would
Money.
say
Huge.
probably 90%, because
Yeah.
how many people do you
Yeah.
think actually like their job?
Not a lot.
Probably
Probably not a
not really
lot.
Not
any.
very many. Yep.
Out of like the population of the world, most people are just working for the money so that they can support themselves, whether it be something like really saddening, like, oh, like we really need this because we live paycheck to paycheck, versus like someone's
Oh
like, oh,
my
I just
goodness.
want to go out and drink every weekend. Then they need the money
True.
for that. So they work this deadbeat job that they don't care about just so they can go out in the weekend and spend money there.
Yeah.
So I would say probably the higher percentage of people just
Yep.
their motivation is money, which I mean, I don't fault.
I think that has to help with like switching gears. Like, it's all right. Negative is that this sucks. Positive, I'm getting paid at the end of the week, and it's also Thursday, so tomorrow's Friday, which means it's the weekend. That's why adults like weekends so much, because that's our motivation. All right, it's Tuesday. Got
I've
3
been
more
there.
days.
Come Monday, I have money for
Friday,
groceries
yeah.
and
Got
2 weeks
Saturday,
to wait.
Sunday. What?
It's always a
Friday
countdown.
again.
Countdown.
So, Crystal, before we wrap up this segment, you got one more thing,
Yep.
correct?
One more. I think this is gonna help a lot of people who are working from home, a lot of students that are doing online classes, or even if you just are at home working through a lot of stuff that you do on a daily basis, is a clean a bleep workspace. I think I think everybody can relate to this, is like if your apartment's messy, if your house is messy, if your room is messy, it's like your mind is also cluttered. Like sometimes it's hard to block out like all the crap everywhere and you can't focus. So I think having a clean space, Sunday night, just tidy things up so that when Monday comes, everything's clean. All you got to work about is things you need to do instead of like cleaning your crap. And I feel like if you have like a space that's like for your workspace and making it like inspirational to you, like if that's a plant to look at all day to make you feel happy, that's a picture of your friends because you're going to hang out with them on the weekend, having a space that inspires you to like move forward. I feel like you get that feeling of like, okay, fresh start, I can start working.
I definitely feel better when things are clean. I don't know if having like a clean workstation would keep me motivated, but I do end up cleaning when I find myself not wanting to do something. So maybe it is motivating for me to just start cleaning, and then after things are clean, and then I actually start to get
You
things
run out of
done.
excuses.
Yeah,
You have no
exactly.
other excuse.
Exactly. Once you're finished cleaning, then there's only one thing left to do, the stuff you don't want to do, which is the stuff you're not motivated to do. And now you're motivated because you don't got to worry about anything else except those things. But I don't know. It could also just be like my undiagnosed OCD. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel
You
like
need things to be
everything needs
clean.
to be in place. It has to look clean so that I feel like refreshed to like start. I have a clear mind,
No,
a clear space.
yeah, I'm pretty sure there's research to back that.
I think a lot of people feel that way, but
Oh,
But I'm
definitely.
also clean just to procrastinate. And then when things are clean,
you got
I guess I have to
leftovers.
work.
You got leftovers on your desk from last night. You got garbage. You got papers that's not related to what you need to do. Like, that's so stressful. I can't have that here. Clean that up. Get that out of the way. If that means putting it in your junk drawer, everybody in your room, your house, There's a freaking closet or drawer filled with stuff that you literally has no home. Just shove it all in there. You don't need to see it. Just keep your space
Out of
that you're
sight, out of
working in
mind.
space. Exactly. Out of sight,
Out of
out of
sight,
mind.
out of mind.
That's pretty motivating.
Yep. I think so. I would say try it. It helps me.
Before we move on to the next segment, I hope you guys found that very helpful. How to stay motivated. We got a couple different tips here from each one of us. We're going to go to a quick commercial break just so that we can make sure everything is spick and span on our side. Let me change that, which is a little reference to what we'll be doing later, just to make sure everything is well polished and nice on our end.
So, you guys heard a little bit about little things we like to do to stay motivated to get our work done. So, now we're going to talk about, a topic I think that a lot of people either struggle with or use it in a positive way. So, we just want to touch on that, and that's motivation and how that relates to comparison to others. So I think we kind of touched on that a little bit because, when you're Jen's example of like competing with other people is motivating, and that in turn is like basically comparing yourself to everybody. So I think just talking about that, because like, I don't know if that's a millennial thing, but we're constantly comparing ourselves to everyone around us. And, and not even just like people around us, just like the societal expectation of where you need to be in life. Oh, you're 27. You must be married. You must have kids. You must have a job and make this much money, kind of thing. That's where society wants you to be. But all millennials are kind of like little farther down the track now, where like people are 35 years old and they're still like, what the F am I doing? And it could be depressing sometimes. Like, dang, I'm not where I want to be. I'm not where people think I should be. But how to use that as motivation? I think it's like, I don't know. What do you guys think?
We talked a little bit about the pro of like using others in motivation, but the definite like con of it is the idea like if you're not where others expect you to be, then it's like I mean, for lack of a better word, you're a loser or you're a failure. I know old heads love to say, like, they'll be like, we used to do things a specific way. We did it like this, and if you don't know how to do this by
Right.
then, it's like a negative thing. But the world is changing. Certain aspects of life are different. People just graduated within the last like 2-3 years. That's a huge impact because even if you got a job before COVID, so many businesses downsized during COVID. So if you're the entry level guy, that's not necessity, buy. So there's a lot of of the younger kids that are kind of out of work in that sense. There's definitely that negative side where you got to be at a certain place, but kind of hard to gauge it with where we are.
Yeah, it's tough to be motivated when you compare yourself to other people, to that negative effect, right? What you want to do is ideally just compare yourselves to other people by understanding where you fall within the spectrum of people, in a similar position as you. Obviously, like Jen said, old heads would be like, we used to do this and that a certain way. We do it by the books. Things are constantly changing nowadays, even within the millennials. There are plenty of different lifestyles to where it's hard to just compare one person to another because of all the different upbringings and cultural backgrounds, and lifestyles that people live, especially with COVID. Things have really gone sideways for a lot of people.
Off
And
the
so it's hard.
rails.
It's just hard to compare yourself to somebody else.
Sayonara. Sayonara life you wanted, because things have, we are literally hopped off the deep end.
Yeah.
There's no coming back. There's jobs that people didn't even realize you can do it from home. and it's changing that whole idea that you need to be in the
Hmm.
office. I think the only thing that you're missing is like team camaraderie, like being around the people that you're working with and having that
You get that online.
relationship. Yeah. No, it's different.
You
It's
get that
different.
online.
It's different. I don't know. I mean, I prefer working from home, but I get it. Like having like when you're on a big team project, it's some for some reason a lot easier to like get things done when you're like all in the same room. I don't know. Something about it. But I agree. I think you can get it all online too. But I get it like older people, older generation feel like it's a lot easier to get that team vibe in the office.
But that more so comes to with exposure because they've they've only seen like this internet lifestyle happen within the past like what 10, 15, 20 years versus when they were in the workforce it was on hands all the time in person and there was just no other alternative. It wasn't even thought of. And so just being able to be part of this generation where I've seen both a workplace without any kind of technological advances versus, where we are now, it's completely different. And, to compare the two is just unfair. It's just two different worlds.
Yeah. And you definitely see how it's like can be demotivating to like see yourself and be like out of college, you don't have a job, you don't have really the prospect of a job, you have this education that at times it just seems like there's no use for it because a lot of times it's like who do you know to get the job
Yeah.
versus what did you study and whatever to get the job. Comparison is can definitely be demotivating. I guess what we should probably maybe talk about is how do we switch that and make it seem more motivating, the motivational side of kind of comparing to others.
We just talked about how comparing yourself to others, how just thinking about where society wants you to be, whether you're there or not. But how do you change all those negative thoughts, all those, you know, demotivating factors and just mindset into something that actually does motivate you to move forward? Because it is heavy to compare yourself to others. It's heavy to not meet the needs of what society thinks you should be at. But how do you make that into something that actually motivates you to just be successful?
Maybe this is not the best advice. There's comparing up and then there's comparing down. So what you could do is instead of comparing up, you compare down. So I mean, why does MTV have such great programming that's really popular? Is because you watch these things and you could go, oh, at least my life isn't like that. You got what my life as a 2-ton monster and getting catfished. Like you watch these guys and you're like, look at that. They can't even walk. So you can kind of use it in that way. This is a little toxic, so I hesitate to say that you should do this, but there's comparing up and there's comparing down. So maybe I should switch it to the idea of maybe remember that you shouldn't always like recognize when you're comparing up because then you can kind of realize, oh, okay, so I'm taking this and making it look bad instead of taking what I have and making it look good.
Yeah, I get that. It's almost like being able to be grateful for what you have and what you have accomplished. Like, everything, even though like if you compare yourself up, things are not looking too good, you're in a dark place. But then if you just look at the little things that you have accomplished and feeling grateful for that, finding like, okay, everything is like a blessing, like little things that you've done. Like, even if just comparing, not even like to other people who are in a bad place, but like, where were you 5 years ago? Like, do you feel like you accomplished more? If that's a no, I'm really sorry, but If that's yes, that's a good motivating place to be. Like, okay, 4 years ago, I was here. I'm doing a lot better. I'm working myself up little steps forward. If that's even just a little bit better, that's better to compare yourself to like
Mhm.
from back in the
And
day.
also, what do people always say nowadays? Is like, at least you have your health. At least you're
That's true.
healthy. Especially with COVID going around, people are like, at least you got your health. So,
Yep.
I mean, if anything,
If
at
that
least you
counts
got your
for
health.
it can be toxic to compare yourself to people and say that, you are in a better place than somebody else. But honestly, you just use that as your own kind of ammunition to keep going because you compare yourself more so to the people in your spectrum, like I had mentioned before. You could always be better. There's always people that's going to be better than you. Unfortunately, it's just kind of how the world works. There's always going to be people
Nobody's
who
better than
are
me.
there's also people who are not as qualified or who can't handle the mental capacity that you can or the physical capacity that you can. So there are two sides of this table, and to just realize that you are at the table, you can change your path moving forward. You always have the leverage to be better than where you are right now, is how you should use, comparison as a motivating factor.
I want to add in. I feel like everybody's seen this TikTok, but there's like this TikTok of this he's an Asian kid and he's like remember it's not too late kind of thing, and then he puts like a video of Judge Judy and Judge Judy is like, it's never too late to start and do what you want to do. If you're in your 20s, if you didn't make it in your 20s, you can make it in your 30s. If you didn't make it in your 30s, you can make it in your 40s. Age doesn't matter. Where you are at in life doesn't matter. It's like you have all the time in your life to make it, and you just need to remember that. Like, if you feel like you feel demotivated because you're comparing yourself to everyone else in your age range or like in your spectrum of people, just remember that it's never too late to start now to get there. It's never too late in your 40s. If you're in your 50s,
Yep.
you got your whole life. Thank you, Judge
Yep.
Judy.
It's just one step at a time. You live and you learn.
Yeah.
It's like learning to fly or like falling in love.
Yeah. What the?
I think that's a lyric to something.
Is it?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, before we move to the next step, I just want to know, like, is it not common as a motivator to just not want to fail? Or is that just like people like us? Like,
No, I think
I'm just
failure is a
motivated.
huge motivator.
That's huge. Like, I went in high school and college, like, I'm gonna do my homework because I'm not trying to fail this class. Like,
Right.
I'm not trying to skip work today because I want to get that secure the bag at
I'm
the
not
end of the
trying to
week,
get fired.
I don't want to fail. That should be a motivator in itself. I feel like everyone needs to remember that. You don't want that on your track record. You don't want to look unreliable. That to
Your
me, or maybe
permanent
that's because I'm
record.
like the anxiety of not freaking completing something. It's just maybe anxiety and like pressure and all that stuff is good. A healthy balance.
That's what I was trying to tell Crystal earlier today, and we were talking about today's material. It was like one of the main reasons why, like, I stay motivated is because I tell myself that there's just no other choice, that I have to do these things. Then there's just no alternative. If I
You
just
just
get that
have
in my
to.
mind, then I'll just do what I need to do.
You got no choice.
I have no choice.
Like
It,
someone has a gun to your head. You have to do this. Or you're gonna
I
die.
I can't. I I gotta do what I
Maybe
gotta
that'll
do.
work with somebody low key. Like,
Uh,
I don't feel like I need to work out today. They just picture someone
you have to do
and they'd be
it.
like,
You have no
I have no
choice.
choice.
yeah. I think failure is definitely a huge motivator for people. Cause I mean, like, we learn that failing is not good. I mean, of course, people say, you try and you fail, you try and fail. Failure is just learning.
Mhm.
When you fail at something, you learn how to not do it. But yeah, of course, like failure is definitely one of those things that people will use to make sure that they do something because it's almost like a societal thing. Like if you fail to do something, then you know what good are you? So
True.
Yeah. Like if you didn't amount to it. In the grand scheme of things, it's a step, it's a learning curve. And failing is understanding where, you could improve on it.
I think that that's a line you need to walk. I mean, definitely fail on some things. You can learn it later, but like failing a whole class in college and that class costs like $4,000. Learn where the fail is like actually acceptable.
Yeah.
you gotta
Acceptable
fall
to
back.
who?
It's like an easy fail.
Yeah, like not,
Fail like
I don't
Fail a
know.
versus
homework
like
assignment
fail. Yeah,
I don't
like
know.
fail one
Don't,
assignment
yeah,
versus like
versus the
the
class.
whole class.
fail
Yeah.
fail jumping off a bridge, bungee jumping.
Yeah. Or maybe not that crazy. Maybe like fail getting to work on time and then learn to get there on time, but not fail as in not show up 3 days in a row and all of a sudden you're fired. Things got consequences. You can't just keep failing and say, "You know what? I'm just learning." You can't just use that. Speaking of things that make a lot of sense, quotes, motivational quotes. Sometimes quotes just make a lot of sense. So, we're going to talk about the quote that really motivates us, one of our favorite motivational quotes, to so that you guys can take that, make it your wallpaper on your phone, write it down every day. I don't know, whatever you guys want to use with it. But with our motivational quote conversation, we're gonna introduce a little bit of a spicy little game. Make this a little more interesting. We're gonna play this game called Change. And honestly, I'm kind of scared because I can't think off the top of my head sometimes. But basically, the name of the game is when you say a sentence, someone is gonna yell change, and we have some designated people on who's gonna yell change for us. But basically, someone will say change. That person who's speaking needs to say what they just said in a different way. So flip it around, change it, reverse it, make it different. I don't know. It could make sense. It could not make sense. But let's see. Let's try to make it make sense so that it falls in line with what we're talking about. But we're just thinking. I don't. I want to say think off the top of my head, but is that not the right word phrase?
No, that's
Got
it.
it.
Yeah. So might make sense, might not make sense. But just remember, we're not dummies. What's up? What's your favorite quote or
So,
one of your
guys,
favorites?
as you know, I'm sure there are a lot of motivational quotes out there, and some just resonate differently with others. One of them that really resonates with me is this quote coming from a Chinese proverb, which says, "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." My interpretation of that is that every single thing that you want to get done has a beginning. Uh, you can only begin tackling these problems, doing what you want to do, by taking a single step. It's not going to be a huge leap by any means, but getting prepared, being able to tackle the problem, being able to dissect what you need to do is huge. And taking that first step means everything.
I'm over here laughing because I already feel motivated.
Yeah.
A journey of a
What
thousand
what was the quote
miles.
again?
A
The
journey of a
journey of a
thousand
thousand miles
miles.
begins with a single step.
It's like true. Yes, queen. Take that first step.
Very important.
I like that. That's literally like your whole mantra every day. Every day you tell me, take
Yeah,
it step by step,
it
one step
falls
at a time.
perfectly with all your motivational tips.
Yeah.
It's
One
all the
step at a
same.
time.
You have like a clear sense of self of motivation.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that.
It's easy to just, bite off more than you can chew in that sense. And then next thing you know,
Yeah.
you're falling behind in terms of where you thought you would be. And so just remember, even if you do feel like you fall behind, it's a long journey and you're not going to get it done today, tomorrow, or the next day. But you can get further along on your journey if you just keep walking.
And
Ah,
sometimes
the
you gotta crawl.
Chinese.
Sometimes you gotta crawl.
Chinese. All that wisdom.
Chinese. What is that? Is that Confucius? Is Confucius
It
Chinese?
might be.
Yeah, right?
You don't
Confucius
sound so
once said,
Confucius to me.
a journey
Confucius
of 1,000
miles.
miles starts with one
One step.
step.
Now, one step. What shoes are you wearing? You don't have to be wearing shoes. All I'm saying
Yeah.
is sometimes
It
that
was
journey is
Jesus carrying
tiring.
you the whole
I
time.
literally was thinking about that. I literally, as soon as you said a journey of 1,000 miles and steps, I'm like, oh, I'm thinking about that Jesus walking in the sand proverb or whatever it is.
That was carrying you the whole time.
That's
My
motivating.
goodness.
That's a motivating thing.
Is that motivating? It's more of like a reassuring thing. Like someone's got your back. I don't know if that's motivation.
That's a little motivating. It's like no matter how hard things get and you feel like you're alone, it's okay to keep moving forward because you're not alone, and your
Yeah.
hardest times in life, someone's carrying you. You don't know that. We're
Yeah. It all
by the
starts with
way,
one step.
we're what is the word? Practicing Catholics. We're not even practicing. We're very removed Catholics. But like we are Catholics. We went through that whole thing. So I think that's like a
It's
lot
like
of millennials are kind of the same,
Catholic by trade, but not by something like that.
So we all
Cut
know
it.
Something like
that
that.
Jesus quote.
Cut it. That's not in the show.
Cut it out. Cut it out. Okay. Yeah, I like that. Write that down, people.
Yeah.
Frame it.
5 out of 5 Peters. It was
Very
so
good.
good. We forgot to play the game. That's how good that quote was. That's how brilliant that
my
quote
God.
was.
My bad, I forgot.
So we'll have more
Thank you,
run
everyone.
as we talk.
Yeah. My bad.
Here's a quote. I shall read you a quote from the movie The Martian. And it reads, at some point, everything's going to go south on you. And you're going to say, this is it. This is how I end. Now, you can either accept that or you can get to work. That's all it is. You just begin. You do the math, you solve one problem, and you solve the next one, and the next one. And if you solve enough problems, you get to go home.
Change.
So that
What?
is.
No, you can't change the
can't
whole
change the quote.
quote. You can't change the whole quote. You gotta change talking about it.
Can't change the quote.
Oh my
Let's
gosh.
go.
You can go home.
You said that so well.
Is a quote from The Martian. And as I read it, I can see the trend or the link to Confucius.
Yep.
You solve one problem at a time.
We don't even know if it's Confucius. It's just a Chinese proverb.
I think it's safe to say. So Confucius probably once said it once. He probably mentioned it. I don't know.
Probably agreed with it. He for sure agreed with
He
it.
probably agreed with it. Or he didn't. I don't know. He did something with that quote. Maybe he didn't do anything with that quote. But like a Chinese proverb once said, 1,000 miles starts with a single step. And that's kind of where this goes as far as the quote. You get one, you solve one problem, you solve the next. And eventually, my favorite line, you get to go home. Because I use that at work all the time. You get to go home.
I love that.
It's pretty good.
But ever since you mentioned that quote, I was like, yeah, you're right. That's a reward. That's like how it ties in line with rewards, you just get to go home. You get to go home and relax. If you just do enough things.
Change.
You just get to go home and sleep. You're tired.
Change.
You know what? Sometimes you just need a snack because life is hard. So you need that break. All right, I'm going to go with my quote next. Mine is honestly in line with Confucius also.
Maybe
Okay,
Confucius.
just the Chinese proverb. So you guys are more like you one step at a time. Yours is take the first step and you of your 1,000 miles. Just taking that first step is huge. And then Juns is taking little steps, solve as many problems step by step kind of thing. Mine, my quote, I don't know where it came from, but I seen it on Pinterest probably. Shout out to all my Pinterest junkies. I don't think a lot of people use Pinterest anymore. Anyway, the quote is finish what you started. Finish what you started. That kind of goes in line with you guys too, because you start a bunch of things, sometimes you get lost in all the stuff you have that you started but you never finished it. I don't know, I think Steven, it was you when you said you were reading a book about how millennials are so inclined to multitask, and we're doing all these different things, starting these new
Mhm.
projects, and like for some reason we like hate finishing it. Like we never get the chance to finish something because we have so many things going on. We're multitasking all the time, and that's like a millennial thing. But I think what you need to remember is you need to finish what you started to be accomplished. Finish one thing. That's what that kind of in line with my checklist. Like finish something that you need to get done. You start something, take it step by step, but remember on the bigger picture is you finish what you started. Finish all the things that you started.
Did you say that because people multitask, they don't want to finish,
It's
or
just that
just
you
they
don't have
forget to
time.
finish?
You forget to finish. Like
You forget to. Okay,
example,
because earlier I thought you said that they don't want to finish, and I was like, that doesn't make sense.
or maybe I did say
But
that, but it's like you have so many things going on, so many things you're multitasking on, you forget that you need to like finish those things. You know? Like
yeah, that's a good one.
you want to start a bunch of new hobbies, but then you never actually do them. You never finish them. Like
Yeah.
you started a book. You wanted to start reading a book. Example, wanted to start scrapbooking. Like that was one of the things I wanted to do. Haven't like finished one scrapbook yet. There's so many things that we want to accomplish because there's so many things you can do, and you can do them all, but you got to remember that you need to at least follow it through, see it through to be
Right.
successful. And
Yeah,
just seeing that like on a sign, finish what you started is like a click for me, motivating me to just keep moving forward to finish that.
yeah. I think that's a definitely a good reminder for everyone because, like, it is true. Like, you often set out to do something, and then something else comes up, and you don't finish it. And it's just, as unsimple as it sounds, it's as simple as that. Just finish it.
Yeah.
Finish it. This Confucius guy has got really good quotes.
So good. So, all in all, take the first step of your 1,000 mile journey. And in that 1,000 mile journey, continue taking one step at a time, solving one problem at a time. And one day you'll get to go home because you finished what you started. Boom! Ba ba
Yeah.
ba. Y'all like that?
Yeah. The kicker
All
of mine
together. All
also
together.
is it's not just you get to go home, but like it's also there's a point in your life where everything's gonna go bad. Like it's also that idea of like things are gonna pile and pile and pile and pile, but it's like there's that choice. You know, this is how I end, or I'm gonna solve this problem. And you just go.
Change.
So
Change.
that's why, and you solve this problem. You say, I'm just gonna get tea, and it's definitely sometimes you just gotta quench it. You gotta quench it thirst, and it's really good for the throat as well.
That was good. Well, I think if no one got anything else to say, everyone, I hope you enjoyed our motivational quotes. I hope you use them to motivate yourself on the daily basis, especially I know we're all starting school, whether you're starting a new job, whether you're just feeling that August, September, fresh new start. I think that's like when people start feeling like they're on a new leaf, kind of like January 1st, New Year's is similar. So hopefully you guys use all this advice to help you stay motivated. We want all of y'all to be successful. We want everyone to feel like we're doing something, we're doing great. If we're not okay, it's going to be okay. We're all going to be fine. Just stay motivated, do what you got to do. Work it out. Secure the bag. How many more phrases do I need to say before someone jumps in?
Are we supposed to? I thought you were wrapping up.
I don't know. I guess we're wrapping up. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining our first podcast. We are so happy to be here first time and hope we can come back with some more content that you guys like. Let us know. We're going to be on all social medias. So on the line, we are always on the line for you guys. Let us know what you want to hear, what you want to see, and we will take it into account. But that is Steven.
Not always.
That's Steven.
That's done.
And that was Crystal.
All right. Peace out, guys.
And if you like content like that and you like more content of that nature, make sure you check out the On the Line YouTube channel. We are going to be probably chugging out an episode every 1 to 2 weeks. I will not make promises, but catch you on the catcher. Now, what button do I press?